fuck?
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, all you Realtor Growth listeners. Today I have Chris Felton. Felton. Oh my gosh, I just said this a second ago. See what happens right there? Consistency right there. Owner and founder of Couples Money. Chris, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, man, Vinny, great to be here. Excited to dive in.
Yeah, I love your story about the idea, and we're gonna get into all to the good stuff for everyone out there, and the idea that maybe sometimes we teach stuff that maybe we don't take on ourselves. And I see that being in the real estate field. I see so many people that they have just papers and not really sure how everything lines up. And then once they're trying to buy a house, they're like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this. I got to figure out this. I got to make the numbers look. So I think a lot of us out there, we might have the knowledge, yet how we implement that is kind of the next step, I guess, of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Chris, so what's your elevator pitch? If someone asked you, Chris, what do you do? How would you describe yourself?
My company, we teach people how money works and really how money really works. And, my purpose on this planet is to help people free themselves mentally and financially so they can live an amazing life. So, two sides of that is mindset and the how-tos. And I think everybody gets stuck in the how-tos and they avoid the mindset. So I'm a golfer, albeit very average. And I ask people, what's more important, the golf swing or the golf club? Well, it's the swing, unfortunately, which is why I'm still average, because I'm always looking for the club that's going to fix everything. So the swing to me is really what goes on between the 6 inches between our ears. And that has to get dialed in, whether it's your health, your wealth, you name it, relationships. And it's the one thing that people avoid. So I combine both the golf club and the golf swing.
What would you say the percentage of people that are in debt, I guess? What percentage of the U.S. population?
I don't know if it's in debt. The way we look at it is we think that financial illiteracy is the number one economic problem in the United States. And it's the fact that people don't know how money works. So we don't learn this stuff in schools. My industry mainly is very conflicted because, Vinny, the less you know about money, the more money they make. And so, so basically the pandemic taught us that people are massively financially illiterate and they suffer what I call the sucker cycle. So the money comes in, the money blows out. So it's more of that. And really the number that has kept me in this game for the last 23 years is 96% of Americans retire broke. So we live in the richest country on the planet and people are broke. Why is that? There's not a lack of information. There's a mindset challenge. There's a mindset problem. There's a paradigm around money and wealth that I've taken it on as my mission to help free as many people as I can before I depart this planet. So it's more financial literacy than debt. Debt is the symptom of it. The root is people don't know how money works.
Well, let's talk about the young Chris. Who was young Chris? Did he at least have an idea of how money worked?
No, I mean my parents, they were told, this is one of the most amazing quotes. I took it from a gal named Margaret Lynch. She wrote a book called Tapping into Wealth. It's one of the best wealth books you can ever create. And she said, the biggest determination of your financial success is the vows that you make to gain acceptance into your family at a young age. So we kind of buy the BS. And so what happens and what happened in my family, Vinny, is literally generations of beliefs around money just get handed down from generation to generation and nobody ever really questions it. So my parents told me rich people are crooks. They make money on the backs of poor people. Money won't make you happy. Anyway, so you get that, and then you get programmed by society that wealthy people are not good. So no, my parents died broke. And I was educated, accountant, CPA, and, thought I was a pretty smart guy. But why am I in so much freaking debt? And it's just, why am I not able to save? Why, I know what to do, but why am I not doing it? So no, I did not have a clue, and my belief systems they weren't lined up. It's why 90% of lottery winners are dead, broke, or in jail inside of 10 years, right? Athletes get these big, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're broke inside of 10, 15 years. And everyone's like, well, they're stupid. No, they're not stupid. Their unconscious beliefs, unless there's an upgrade, like a cell phone upgrade, unless they do an upgrade, they're not going to hold on to their wealth. And that's what was happening to me, until about 2008.
When did you start, when you left school, when did you actually start, I guess, jumping in the CPA business and the accounting business?
Well, that's right out of college. So I spent 7 years with the largest accounting firm in the world for 7 years, and then moonlighted doing what I do now. This was late 90s. I'm getting old, man. I just turned 50. Late 90s, early 2000s. I was moonlighting in the late 90s doing what I do now, and then left corporate America behind and fired my boss in February 2000. So 22 years ago, I walked out and never looked back. So.
Okay, so 2000 is when you went on your own and kind of built your business. And 2008 is when you kind of had the financial kind of crisis, correct?
Yeah.
For yourself? Okay.
Yeah.
So walk us through those 8 years. I mean, how was being on your own, the process of kind of starting your own business? How did that work out?
Well, I mean, it's it's not the easiest thing to do, right? And especially, I mean, you can think about, I'm a financial services entrepreneur. 2000 to 2008. I mean, that's not necessarily the greatest time to get rocking and rolling, right? Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of lessons there. A lot of mistakes that I made. I had, a bad relationship with money, which I find a lot of entrepreneurs. They work 70, 80, 90 hours a week, but they have nothing to show for it because of their money mindset, and they just make bad financial decisions. And that was me. But go ahead.
Was it the individual? Was it the individual Chris or the company that was making the bad decision? Because sometimes I think as a business, we don't charge enough to actually to say, hey, we need this much money so we can actually grow and expand. Other ones, we're charging enough. We have in the business, yet we're spending our stuff personally on things that we really don't need. So where was the disconnect? Where was the negativity around money? Was it the company or was it the individual?
No, I mean, my platform's neutral. I mean, they had nothing to do with it, right? So it's almost never the company. It's always us, right? So no, it was me. Absolutely, for sure. Yep.
Now you're growing and you're expanding. I mean, how was that process of expansion? I mean, were you getting business from the start when you were going on your own? Was the money flowing? What was that process like? What was that?
No, I mean, I had, it's what I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs about, and I mean, everyone hears it. You're why, you're this, you're that, but I had pretty big, compelling emotional reasons to make it work. And part of it was just, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And I wanted to prove others wrong. And so, your purpose and your why transforms over time. I was a single guy at the time. Right. And so, I didn't have the family that wasn't necessarily a why for me then, but it was, I got to make this work. I got to prove I can do it. And I got to prove others wrong, because I had a lot of people talking in my ear about how stupid, the decision was, because I left, pretty cushy track where I was and where I was going to go to do this. So I had, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, horrible at sales. I spent more time talking people out of doing business with me than not doing business with me, than talking them into doing business with me. But I was just, I was in action mode, and I was in prospecting mode. And once again, I had a tremendous amount of desire to make it work. And so have lots of shortcomings and shortfalls, but my follow-up is impeccable. So a lot of entrepreneurs suck at follow-up. They're like great at prospecting, and they just kind of lose, the business. They die the death of 1,000 cuts in their business, and one of them is they just don't follow up, and they don't plan very well. And we could do a whole nother episode on planning and what that looks like and how to be a world-class planner and prepare yourself for success. But so I had those things in me, Vinny. I had, I still have crazy ass follow-up. And it's served me very well.
You're growing, you're expanding. Are you hiring on more people in those first couple of years?
Yeah. I probably had 10, 15 agents in my agency. Yep. So
okay.
I'm doing personal client work, and then I'm building people at the same time, and still do that to this day. Yep.
Okay. It sounds like the expansion, the growth of it was all positive. Was there any moment where you thought about going back especially when people are talking in your ear, why did you leave that cushy job? Did you ever think about actually going back to the cushy job?
Yeah, I think, I think, and I've been blessed to have just crazy, amazing world-class, phenomenal mentors around me. I got very, very fortunate. So, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they suffer from John Wayne syndrome. They're on their own. They don't have mentoring. They don't have coaching. They don't reach out for mentoring or coaching. And, one of my favorite quotes that I got somewhere is, left to our own devices, we either don't do anything or we make a mistake. So I've always had people around me, Vinny, that they could always see my blind spots. So, your ego's number one job is to keep you stuck and keep you right where you are. So I've become a pretty good expert at my ego. And I've also become an expert at how I sabotage myself. And so I'm super aware of, there's a term out there called metacognition. It's the ability to think about what you think about. And so I got really good at that. And I recognized early the patterns of thinking that were leading me in the direction that I didn't really want to go. And that was just doubts and fears and all that. So I really learned to recognize those patterns, and had either, fellow business partners around me kind of at my level, or I had mentors that I would call up and, get perspective and find my blind spots. And so I don't lose the battle of my brain too often. I reach out for help, and, I'm always looking for course correction on that. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but yeah, of course. Our ego is pretty strong, and it does, its job is literally to keep you right flat where you are. So if you don't have systems and tools in place, people to reach out when you're not feeling well about stuff, then that's what can take you totally out of the entrepreneurial game, which is sad to watch.
It sounds like you're very open with your successes and shortcomings. How open were you with your team with those same topics?
Oh, all the time. It's actually how I teach.
Okay.
I just did a keynote in Dallas, and it was my talks are always, this is where I was, these are the mistakes I made, here's what I learned, and here's where we ended up. So that's the formula of how I train and teach is, whatever you're going through, I went through it, and not only did I go through it, but I probably screwed it up worse than you. And so, if there's any people that speak and teach out there, the worst thing you can do is stand up and act like you never had any bruises, you never got punched. There's guys that teach that way, and it's just, they don't make any mistakes. And I want to always air my dirty laundry when I speak, just so people can learn. So for sure, always open to share that stuff with people.
Well, let's fast forward now. Now we're in 2008. Kind of walk us through what happened then.
Yeah, so I got married in 2000, and then had two awesome kids who are now 21 and 18.
Let me jump over fast. So you got married the same window of time that you actually started your own company.
Yeah, I mean, I started. I was part time for I was part time for a year, and then I got full time, and then got married. Just going back, my initial reason why I wanted to get this going was just to prove that I could do it, right, and prove other people wrong. And then I added, my wife, and then So I quit my corporate job, got married, had a kid who's going to be 21 in 3 months. Just all this stuff came at me at once, and just didn't have the best marriage. We actually got divorced in 2004, so I'm processing that. And then she picked up and moved my kids to Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm broke. I don't see my kids. It wasn't a good time. Got remarried in 2006 to my current and last wife, Marlo. And so, so I had to pay for the divorce. I had to pay for half my business. I had to do all this stuff. I didn't fight. I didn't want to fight in court. So overpaid in every area. I was paying her about $5,000 a month in alimony and child support, struggling. And at the time that I got married, I had about $250,000 of unsecured debt. Also signed a stupid office lease. I mean, it just once again, bad financial decision after another that I watched my dad do his whole life. So long and the short of it, I'm searching for answers, and I'm getting heavy into personal growth and development because I got to grow, and I got to be super intentional about it. So I'm in my garage in Colorado in February. It's like 10 degrees today. It was about like that. And it's the only place I could go, Vinny, to actually meditate and being quiet, because our house was just small and loud. And I'm sitting there, and I literally like get the download from God. And it's like, let your wife manage your money, because I was keeping her at bay because I didn't want her to look at what I'd done. She didn't know. She didn't know what was going on. So she had her own separate finances. I had mine, and she wanted to merge, and I just was fighting her on it. So literally the intuitive hit came in, and I talk to people about it a lot, is when you get that intuitive hit, you probably know Mel Robbins, right? I mean, Mel Robbins in the 5-second rule, that wasn't around in 2008, but you literally have 5 seconds to take action, or your ego is going to talk you out of it. So I didn't know any of this stuff, but I got my butt up. I went in the house and I told her, it's your time to just take over. So I took action on Intuit, and is the single greatest financial decision I ever made in my life. So handed all the checkbooks and everything over to her. And about a week later, she comes in the kitchen with just like this look of, what the F did you do? Like, she's just like, what are you doing? Oh my God. Like, you're using credit card checks to pay for our office rent. Like, it was just unbelievable how stupid I was. And it's just getting worse. So we had I called the Come to Marlowe meeting, which was not pretty, where we just sat down, and she's like, we got to get on a budget. And we got to do this, and this. And one of my favorite quotes is, optimism and delusion sleep in the same bed together. Right. And I was optimistic, but I was delusional. And I was like, well, I got this new agent coming on. I got these new clients coming in. So it's always like, don't look here. Look way over here. And the term's called objective reality. It's the capacity. It's a world-class mentality. It's the capacity to look at your situation unemotionally. Right. And most people live in delusion. The 96% that are broke, they don't want to look at their situation because they don't want to feel bad. But if you don't look at your situation, it's just going to keep worse. It's just going to get worse. Right. So I was an ostrich, Vinny, and I didn't want to look. So that didn't land. And then fast forward about 9 months later, we had to sell that house. We had to move into a rental, and I was out of ways to get debt. I was out of, and I stopped doing what got me to where I was, which is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They build a business, they get to a certain level, and then they cool their jets, and they become, we call it big timing, right? They act like big timers. They stop prospecting. They stop doing what got them there. So I totally cooled my jets on that and just gave speeches and told everybody else what to do. Doesn't work very well. So I had to pay my ex $5,000 the next day. I had nothing. And the only person that had money was my wife. So this is fun when her and I reenacted on stage, but I'll save you the time. But I literally had to go home and convince my wife to give me the money to pay my ex-wife. How do you think that went over?
How did you separate your work kind of life balance? So to be as transparent as possible, kind of failing with your finances, right? Yet your job is to help people with their finances. So how were you keeping the confidence when you're talking to someone, hey, I'm going to help you out here, but in the back of your head, you know how much damage you've done to your own self?
Yeah, my confidence eroded a bit, but it's like the cobbler's kid has no shoes. So I got in this business to help people. So I still had the belief that me being in their lives is better than me not being in their lives. Because people are financially literate. I knew what to tell them to do, even though I wasn't personally doing it. Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a problem with that, just because I knew I brought value to the table. But no, I had to clean up my personal example if we were going to go to the next level. There's no question about that. You gotta have your personal example happening.
When you're in the moment, you brought up before about the idea of your coaching style, your teaching style, right? Where I was this, I did this, now I've done this, and this is where I am. Yet when you're in the moment of all this stuff happening, do you still teach that same way of telling people your current journey, or do you wait until you've actually got through a little bit?
Well, yeah, I'm probably not talking about that situation because I still have to grow and pop out on the other side. Right. So
yeah,
there's probably no value, but having been in business, as an entrepreneur, I had some achievements. I had some things that were positive. Right. So, 80% of small businesses only making the first 2 years. Right. So I was still 8 years there.
Yeah.
So there was still value there, but the value was, maybe going back 3 or 4 years and helping people overcome, those mistakes and those hurdles that got me to that point. But, as I started getting epiphanies on mindset around money and started making some, super positive changes, and most importantly, able to point to some results, then I started teaching some of that, even though we weren't through it yet, we were gaining traction. So,
well, I think that's the difference between, successful entrepreneurs and maybe not so successful entrepreneurs. The successful entrepreneurs see how things are going wrong and they focus on that. Yet in your case right there, you're focusing on the positive, and then as positives come about, learn those as kind of teaching, to the people around you. What happens next? So you're getting out there. When did the website come about? When did all these classes start coming about and these speaking engagements start kind of coming about?
Well, from that point where I, asked my wife for the money to pay my ex, that was the turning point. So, she loses it, and we just have like the fight of our marriage. And I finally just asked her, well, why are we still married? Because she just, she made it sound like it was bad, right? It wasn't good. So, then it was just crickets. It was silence. And then she went upstairs. And then my turning point, and this is a message to everybody, is wherever you've had a problem in your life, you've always been there. And we are the common denominator of all our problems. And so what happened to me, Vinny, was I quit blaming my ex. I quit blaming the recession. I quit blaming my team. I quit blaming whatever. And it was the first time in my life I actually took 100% responsibility for my entire life. And it was clear as day that I'd created the whole freaking mess. Like clear as day. Like, I mean, I could look at my past marriage. I'm like, she didn't have a chance. She didn't have a chance. I was expecting it not to work out, right? Because one of my favorite quotes, my guys roll their eyes every time I say it. I'm like, you don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. And people hope positive, but don't expect much. And that's what was happening for me. So long and the short of it, my wife and I came back the next day. This is answering your question, where it all came from. And she's like, all right, we're staying together. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting a divorce. We're going to figure it out. And she said, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, I'm all in. I'm going to treat this whole money mindset, belief system stuff like an Olympic athlete treats their sport. I'm like, I'm all in. I'm up at 4 a.m. I'm reading everything I can. I'm journaling. So I got psycho, man. I dove in and just remade my golf swing, so to speak. Like, just broke it down, figured out what dad told me, mom told me. This didn't serve me. You know, I got coaches. I mean, we could talk all I did, but the key is I took massive action to transform myself. And then what she did is she got on planes, trains, and automobiles and found wildly successful, couples, entrepreneurs that build a business from scratch, got financially independent, but they had great marriages, great relationships, great spiritual life. I mean, gave a ton of money away, total world-class individuals. And then she'd come back and say, well, hey, here's what they do, but here's how they think. And I'm like, well, okay, so I'm going to align my thought with that. And so we just collaborated, and, we had a massive financial transformation, still jaw-dropping to me to this day. And, freed ourselves in the next 5 years, took our income up 5 times. I mean, it's just unbelievable what's happened. So from that, we wrote our book, Couples Money, based on what we learned and what we applied. And we wrote that, 11 years ago. So couplesmoney.com is where that is. There's different talks out there, but yeah. So that's kind of where we cut our teeth and turned everything around.
Is there any topic that you've ever been embarrassed about by any of your actions, or has it always been that kind of mindset of being so open, even as a young kid?
Oh no, young kid is all about, my one of my mentors, a guy named Steve Siebold, who wrote a book called How Rich People Think, mandatory reading, transformed my life. And one of the topics he talks about is the fact that people have approval addiction. It's a topic you guys can Google. What is approval addiction? It's the addiction of the approval of other people is as strong as they've done brain scans, Vinny. They've done brain scans on people. And when someone's in full blown approval addiction, their brain looks identical to the person that has a heroin addiction.
Oh, wow.
Friggin' powerful, and was one of my major problems. So approval addiction, back in the day, there's no way I'm going to let people know about my dirty laundry, if I'm trying to get their approval. So no, so I'm going to be fake, inauthentic, play a role, full of crap. So no, that was, that right there was a big chunk of my life, until I finally started, I got to get real. I got to get real with who I am and then, share with people. So hopefully it helps them move their lives forward.
Where do you see yourself, your company in the next 5 years from now?
Our company, I turned 50 in August, and I talked about it at this talk I did this Saturday. It was actually the first time in my life I actually got in relationship with my mortality. It just sounds weird. Like, it was just, and then I had a counterpart in the company. I actually played a video of his wife. He went in November. He went from healthy to stroke to dead in 7 days. Unbelievable. We were same age, dude. Totally jacked with me hard. So I did this talk about, is it worth it? That's my whole talk. Has it been worth it? And is it worth it? And she had a video of her for about 3.5 minutes of like how her husband and her put it all on the line. And even though he's not here anymore, the legacy and the blessings and all that. So for me, it's what struck me, understanding I might not have all the time. It's just impact. And in my quiet morning meditations and my morning routine, it just hit me that, okay, let's impact 10 million plus people in a positive, powerful way before you leave the planet. So 10 million is what's in my head. How that's coming about. Hopefully this is impactful. Our business is going to continue to grow. I think we'll get up to about 1,000 agents spread out across the United States. That's the goal. Hopefully we help, keep helping more and more people. But I'm writing a book right now. It's kind of, my journey and lessons and, so doing that and developing a keynote with that. So, I'm not sure where it's all going. I just know that impact is my word, and legacy's, what's driving me. And I just, want to share this with as many people to hopefully help them and, hopefully live a long life. But, and hopefully it's not 10 million, hopefully it's 100 million, but that's why I'm doing all this stuff. And, people can follow me on social media, and I'm dropping stuff every day on just this type of stuff that hopefully helps and serves people. So
for you to come to reality with your own mortality, it was due to someone near to you, I guess, that passed away. Do you think there's anything else like that you could have told yourself, your past self, that would have made you come to mortality before that, or no?
No, I think the path. I'm a pretty spiritual guy. So, that's why people, I think, need to take time to get quiet, connect with God, whatever your relationship is there spiritually, whatever you believe in. But you got to take time every morning to develop you and refine yourself. And so I think there's a path. I think there's a plan. I think God has big plans for us, and stuff unfolds the way it's supposed to unfold. So I think it's happening, exactly the way it's supposed to happen. And I, one of my affirmations every morning is, I don't have to worry. I trust the pattern of life. Right. Mm-hmm. So no, I think it's unfolding the way it's supposed to unfold. And I'm here today talking to you for a reason. And, just trust all that, take action and trust yourself. That's another thing many people don't do as entrepreneurs. They don't trust themselves. And they second guess, but trust that inner voice, trust that spirit in you, and take action based on it. And it usually works out okay.
Well, I'll finish off with this last question, and thank you, Chris, for being here. For anyone listening right now, is there a nugget that they should take away in their own financial space, so they can be better served in the next weeks, months, years going in the future?
I think. There's a lot there. I think, maybe a how-to is having a routine, where you look at, a number one goal. And what's always driven me is, the doubling of my income. And so it's what's funny is, as you grow and develop, it's really not about the money. It's about, for me, money's it's a scorecard of value that I'm creating. It's also a scorecard of what's going on with me mentally. So when I say you make this amount of money, there's a certain amount of money that pops into people's heads, and that's a thermostat. So if you want to double, you got to do some work, right, internally to do that. Because, if people, I'm just using 100,000, it's not very much money anymore, but at one point it was. But if someone's got $100,000 thermostat and they're making 60 and I'm talking about an entrepreneur, right? And their income drops, they level up activity and action to get to that level. And then I got guys that crush it, and they'll make more in a month than they made in the prior 6 months. And you can see the internal air conditioners chill down. I can relax. I can breathe, all that. So you got to do the work to start seeing yourself in higher income ranges. And so the key is, if it's a double, then you want to figure out what that looks like in a quarter. But really the key is, what do you need to do to generate that ideal income on a weekly basis? It's really powerful, because if you can start seeing that bigger income weekly in your mind's eye, you're starting to change that income thermostat. You have to see yourself more successful first. That's the problem. Everybody is where they are because that's exactly where they see themselves. It's exactly what they expect. So once again, you don't get what you hope for, you get what you expect. So expect bigger income. And the last thing is track your net worth. You got to track your net worth. You got to know where your net worth is. And most people do not know what their net worth is. And I don't care if it's $2. You got to start tracking it.
There's a technique we use for our team is to raise your financial thermostat, is start looking where you'd spend the money if you got it. So every day, double it. Okay, what would you do with $1,000? Then next day, 2,000, 4,000, so on and so forth. But it can get difficult once you go past basically your financial thermostat to see where you would spend that money. And for other people, it's a breeze. They have it down. So, I mean, for anyone listening right there, assess what your financial thermostat is, what you make, because you're more than likely making that right now. Thank you, Chris, for being here. For people listening, I know you've already talked about on your website. I mean, what's the best platform for people to reach out to you and get more information? Is it the website? What platform?
Yeah, I mean, so couplesmoney.com, our book's out there. Chris.Felton at wealthwave.com. But actually, Instagram is where I'm posting every day. And it's a CF for my name, Chris Felton, CF _ E, the number 2E. So E to E is part of my mission. I want to turn people from being employees to entrepreneurs. So CF _ E to E. So it's all this stuff. I post 5 days a week, and it's usually, mindset, how-tos. I mean, there's just a bunch of stuff out there, videos, just part of my purpose, man. I just want to guide people and give them some stuff that's going to make an impact in their life. So Instagram is probably the best way to find me.
Well, thank you again, Chris, for being here. I mean, for anyone listening right now, it doesn't matter where you are today. You can be wherever you want in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I mean, I've talked to so many people, especially being in the real estate field out here in San Diego. Oh, I can never buy a house. I can never do that.
Yeah.
You could. You just got to do those small changes, make those small changes. Follow Chris, follow someone like Chris, put that game plan in place, because, I mean, tomorrow, the next day, you can be wherever you want to be. Thank you again for listening. Go follow Chris and subscribe, share. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.